Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, well, I just go ahead and start then.
Yeah, oh, great.
Okay.
So your recipe is actually on the slide now.
Okay, that's the slide. Now go a little bit closer. This is the original recipe here.
Oh, wow.
As was written down whenever I got it off my granny.
Wow,
Okay.
that's amazing that you have your grandmother's handwriting.
And that's her picture who gave me the recipe.
Yes.
And everybody thinks their granny's the best cook in the world, but only if you're overweight can you really have a chance of that being true. So, okay, we will start. First off, you grab yourself a beer. Yeah, I know it's only noon there, so I have a non-alcoholic beer, and so I can start that.
And we noticed that you have an assistant with you today, if you want to introduce.
I do. This is Kira.
Hi.
Kira is 12.
I am.
Hi,
Kira
Kira.
wasn't born in Albuquerque, but her heart is there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just speaking words now.
Okay. So, you forgot. It's okay. Kara usually makes the bread with me almost every time. So we just follow along the recipe that we got, and we start with flour. Normally it should be this type of cup you use, but we've moved on. We imagine that the recipe was done with this cup, but since we use this cup now to be maybe a little bit more precise. Don't worry. And we start with 3 cups of plain flour. Okay, that's all right. And you can sort of mix this up. We've actually recently changed it ourselves, just towards the end of last year, where we added a little bit more wheat flour instead of plain flour. But it's 3-to-1 mix. That's the original recipe, and that's what we're going to use right now. And shout if you have any questions at any time. Maybe you're put on mute. I don't know, but 3 done.
Yes.
So yes, if you have any questions or if you have any comments, we are monitoring the chat.
Okay. So that's that, and then 1 cup of the recipe I had was wheatmeal flour. We use coarse wholemeal, whatever you think is going to work for you. And then, is that okay? You got it? And then you will also need, that wasn't in the recipe, but a linen tablecloth. We have one here with a map of Ireland. I suppose I should say that.
Oh, I
See
love
where
it.
we're from. Let me see. You have to have it the right way up, but here's a map of Ireland. Okay, and we are from up around here, near Newry. It's actually in the north of Ireland. Okay.
That's amazing. I love that map. Mexico should have one of those.
I wish I could say we have one for everyone in the audience, but we don't. Flour. Yeah, what's that? Okay, so that's those 2 ingredients. I'll mix here while my assistant reads the next. Maybe one of the most important pieces of ingredient is this cream of tartar. I don't know. This is referred to by my granny as powerful stuff. This is what makes it happen. This is why we're not using yeast to let the bread rise or whatever. This is the bit that helps. What's that?
That's the magic in the bread.
The magic. Okay. So this is a 1/2 teaspoon. Okay. So sometimes you gotta just pour it out. Hope you get about a 1/2 teaspoon. A wee bit extra goes in. It's probably not a bad thing. And there's none left anyway, so that's about it. Okay.
Use all the magic you can have.
All the magic works, and then we need a heaped teaspoon of, what are you going for? Baking soda.
Also known as bicarbonate of soda.
So what was a heaped teaspoon? I don't know.
And that's heat.
Heaped? Is it, I think it's just like more than, a little bit more than a teaspoon?
Like a little
Like a
mountain.
little pound, yeah, like a mountain, yes.
Okay, good. And you know, you can, as you make the bread, you know, I've made it too salty before. We need salt.
Okay.
I've made it too salty before. That's a bigger heap than a heaped teaspoon of salt. And you just have to mix and match and get it to where your taste buds want it. And that's pretty much it. So this we mix up, and then we need an egg.
Yeah.
So we did have a question about the wheat mill flour. Is that
Yeah.
the same as whole grain flour? And where would you find that?
I find it. Oh. So this is what we have here. Coarse wholemeal. It's pretty much refined. I don't really know. I'm not much of a cooker, but I don't know if you can see in there. Oh, it's good like that. So where am I here?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
it's-
so it's a little browner than white flour.
Yeah, that's where it comes from. I guess the wheaten. I added that in there, so why not? We put extra. Did we have another bag there? No, or did it go in the bin? So hopefully you guys can get that, but I know you can because I've bought it in at least a Trader Joe's maybe.
Oh, perfect.
Is it the tail end supermarket, Talon or supermarket? So I know you can get it there somewhere in Albuquerque.
Perfect. Yeah,
Um,
Trader Joe's, people are saying it's the same as
Yeah.
whole wheat.
I have on the recipe, 1 egg was the recipe I got. I have written here, I use 2. I have stopped using 2 for a long time. Put it in, if you get some eggshells in it, it's good protein. Not, but you can take it mine. We need
Nope.
buttermilk. No pesto, needed.
But you could add green chili.
You could add green chili. You could add a bit of
Oh,
cheese.
yummy.
Just wash my hand.
Add some New Mexico taste to it.
Yeah, they should have done that actually. So then the most interesting, not the most interesting, but the next bit about from the recipe was when my granny gave it to me was a taste of buttermilk.
I don't know what that means.
Honestly, that's what she gave it to me over the phone. I got it actually when I graduated university. I went to Japan, and I was looking for bread similar to what my granny would make, and you couldn't buy it anywhere in Japan. So I asked her for the recipe, and she gave it to me over the phone in 1998. A taste of buttermilk. And I'm like, well, what is that, Granny? She says, just a wee bit. Well, a wee bit is about a pint for that recipe, but I wouldn't put it all in together. But I put a good lump of it in, and then see. And then always get somebody else to do the work for you. Can you hold it up there so we can see the picture? There you go.
Yes,
Yeah.
that looks great. You mentioned that you're not a cook, but it looks amazing.
Yeah. So. All right. And then a little bit more maybe. Let me
Okay.
grab around the edges. Want me to grab a bit? So you don't want to mix too much at it. Otherwise, it'll maybe be very dry. And
In the
then-
end, it should look like bread dough.
Okay.
So I'm almost used my whole pint there. Oh, where are you here?
But I
Somewhere there.
love her taste. I like anything that's in a pint, like a pint of
Yeah.
beer.
There you go. You could probably add a bit of beer to it, but I've never done that actually.
Beer and green chili.
Beer and green chili. I think we've probably made a new recipe here just by the upload. Well, that is very close to being all done now. Normally we wouldn't use a whole pint, but this is getting, I don't know, maybe my assistant here put in too much flour because we're definitely going to need that milk, aren't we?
Probably.
I think so.
This says 568 milliliters of milk.
And guess what that is?
Pint.
Yeah. Go ahead. We bet more.
I hate that metric stuff.
Yeah, I didn't think we were going to be doing math today.
I know, it's discouraging.
Don't worry.
That looks
it's
yummy already, you guys.
It does. It looks
So
great.
that's about it. I would even make it a little bit wetter than that. Just, I guess we're gonna use it all, maybe not too much. Okay, or maybe just wet the outside. You okay with that? And here we
Oh
go.
yeah, look at that. I
And
think you
then-
should come to New Mexico and make us some in person.
Mhm.
so-
Please.
So I think.
I'd love
this-
that.
Yeah, that's about perfect. And then what we need to do
Let's get the
is,
flour.
in order to keep my whole kitchen clean so my wife doesn't shout at me, is I then, well, shout at me too much. Spread a little bit of flour out. You're probably all better at doing this than me. And then
Right.
drop it out there. Now, the other thing on the recipe that it says is it makes two bonics. Bonnic. I have never made two bonics with this. So down, Jack. I've never made two bonics with this in my life. Which is basically take this in half and make two of them. And that would be why then putting them in the oven at 25 to 35 minutes. It also says in the recipe, not top, but not middle. So you have to work that out in your own oven.
I've never heard that word.
Which, a bonnic?
Onyx?
Yeah, a bonnic. A bonnic loaf for. So,
I
all
think I
right.
would rather just have one large loaf than two.
Yeah, I always.
Yeah,
have
super
done
large.
one large loaf. And we find, not that we've done it the other way, but it sort of keeps better.
Yeah.
Okay, so because we stirred it up a good bit in there, we don't really need to, what do you call it, knead it too much. So we just put a little bit in my hand. I seen somebody do that recently. And then just put it together, pat it down. And if you don't need it and do all that flipping stuff, this makes it look fine. Get it to whatever sort of shape you want it. Line your baking tray with either a wee bit of butter. Nowadays, I've been educated to use, what do you call that? Parchment paper.
Or wax paper.
Or wax paper or baking paper, no?
Yes.
So up until about that thick, thinner, roughly an inch. Get it good, get it onto the tray.
I love these homemade recipes just because they're, a taste of this or a splash of that.
And then one of the most important things to do then is to get your knife and put a cross on the bread.
So the demons don't get you.
And that was to say to ward off the demons. Now, one thing that I do that I haven't told my children yet, since I've had two girls, I don't put more than one cross on it. I actually put two little crosses,
Oh, nice.
one for each of my girls,
Oh, that's sweet.
because they're demons. So that is it. And then you pretty much should clean up after yourself. You want to put it up a wee hair to my face.
Mhm.
And then what's next? Oh, yes. You got to wash your hands. And we did that before we started, actually, believe it or not.
How long do you put the bread in the oven?
So preheat the oven. The recipe I have is gas mark 7 to 8. Okay. Or 190 to 200 degrees,
Okay.
which is about 350 Fahrenheit. So 190 to 200 is degrees Celsius. But again, that's going to all depend on your oven, the altitude in New Mexico.
We've
Huh?
made it in New Mexico with this recipe. So.
Yeah, I would always start with a little bit lower.
Okay.
And try it out there because you can always cook it a little bit longer. You can't uncook it. But and it takes about, I think with that bigger loaf, about 40 minutes.
Oh, great.
Um,
40
Once
minutes.
you get it in and you have your linen tea cloth, then you gotta wet your tea cloth
With water.
with water,
Not beer.
not beer. Okay. And when you take it out of the oven, then you wrap it in a damp tea cloth and let it dry. Let it cool before you cut it. That's it. Any questions for me?
Yeah, this is a great opportunity. If people have questions or comments, I am glad that, it's only a 40-minute bread, approximately that long, because you can start it and have it for dinner. How long does it, oh, there's a couple of questions. How long does the bread last once it's baked?
So I think it lasts until it's hard, but you can always toast it and have it with some baked beans. But 2 to 3 days
Okay.
is really about the height of it. That, then it starts to get hard. Now we've tried to vary it with maybe a little bit more milk, a little bit wetter to put in, but we haven't really found much of a difference. But maybe if it's wrapped up well, there's better ways to keep it. Maybe it'll keep longer, but 2 to 3 days is.
We usually eat it before it goes on.
Yeah. We usually eat it or give it away. Now.
It sounds like you probably eat it faster than you can bake it.
Oh, nice. Any other questions?
That looks awesome, LaMonica.
Oh
Love
yeah,
it.
Rebecca was making hers at the same time you were, and hers looks
Jeez.
just as good.
Dang it, that looks great.
Now, any other questions?
There is. Do you have to let it cool before slicing and serving?
Yes.
And
You
then
don't have to, but
Shoot.
Doesn't have to be cold, but it shouldn't be hot.
oh, okay.
I like your helper. She's so good.
yeah.
She's amazing.
Yes, thank you. One other question: can you add any other seasonings to it, like rosemary or oregano?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing this now with the girls probably 7 years or so, maybe 8 years. And we haven't added anything too strange because we feel like we're still perfecting it ourselves.
Right.
But there's no reason why you couldn't add,
Green
some
chili.
chopped green chilies or whatever to it.
We're gonna have to
There's
mail you some green chili. It sounds like you guys are missing home.
Yes, please.
That's a good idea.
That would be great.
Best way to eat it with butter.
I'm curious
Yeah.
about the wrapping the bread in a wet towel. That's not, I'm a big bread fan and a bread baker, but I'm not familiar with that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I wish I could really give a decent reason. It's what was always done. So I just follow with it. There is some thought that
Love that.
the outside doesn't harden as quick. So with it being cooked at that temperature and time, the outside is fairly crusty. And if you wrap it in the bread, it's still just crusty enough, but it doesn't go hard very, very quick. You know, and in years gone by, you know, that's what people wrap, you know, their food in. There wasn't as much plastic or Ziploc bags or, you know, even readily available paper bags to stick the bread in. And that's what was wrapped, that's what it was wrapped up in.
Cool, thanks.
Now, LaMonica doesn't have one of these ovens because I just put the bread in the oven and then I put it on the super fast cook. And now we're gonna check how it looks.
Oh, yes. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, I love your oven. I love the green of your oven.
So it looks, as I just opened this is after about 40 minutes. It doesn't look to me like it's cooked enough. So to me, I would cook it a little bit longer until it's a little bit browner. What I was always told to do is to turn it over, knock on the back, and hear the hollow sound. I don't even need to stick a knife in this one. I already know it's just not enough. So sometimes I put it back in upside down. I let it cook a little bit longer. Might even turn it up a couple of degrees, but to me it probably needs another 5 or 10 minutes there. So I was hoping it would be ready. Not that we could have sliced it anyway, but
Slice it and share it with us.
what's that? Oh yes, okay. What was that question? Sorry.
Oh, we were saying slice it and share it with us.
Yeah, that would be nice. So serving suggestion, we at least make it every Christmas. And what we would eat it with would be some smoked salmon, just butter. You know, the first few slices would always be just butter. There would be nothing, and not low-fat butter, not any other butter other than margarine or none of that carry on. Real butter, just when it's warmish, but not warm enough to super melt the butter too quick.
Butter is amazing. Butter is probably a really good, it should be a part of the food groups. You should have butter every day.
Isn't it?
We
It
probably.
is, it's oils and spreads.
It's a part of our food group.
So we do have a couple questions. Why upside down when you put it back for the reminder 5-10 more minutes?
For that was not part of my granny's directions at all. I don't know if she ever did that. To me, just because the top is more crusty and the bottom was sitting on the tray, it maybe does. It's a round shape. So
think.
yeah.
Maybe.
Any other thoughts, Sylvia?
That makes sense to us. And then what types of foods would you suggest to serve with the bread?
So Heinz baked beans, get them in Tallinn Market, but the butter, actually good with maybe a soup, tomato soup.
Cup of tea.
Yes, a good tomato.
But yeah, it wouldn't.
Vegetable soup.
Vegetable soup. And also if I was to go to my uncle's and go down for a cup of tea, he would have wheaten bread, either store-bought or his own mix to it. He actually adds, what does he add to it now? Some oatmeal. He adds some oatmeal to it as well, a cup of oatmeal. But he would slice it up, put some butter on it, and a couple of slices of cheddar cheese as well.
Or ham.
Oh, it sounds so good. And it's like almost time to have lunch. So cheddar cheese on bread. Yes. And then now that it's, very close to St. Patrick's Day, people are asking what's your traditional, besides, what we think of corned beef and cabbage, what other traditional foods do you eat for St. Patrick's Day?
The first time I had corned beef and cabbage was in Ohio in probably 2004, maybe. And I was born just before 2004. Not a whole lot, many years before, but a few years before. But I never had it here. What's very common here is Irish stew,
Irish stew.
which is basically the original Irish stew would have been made with lamb, would have been made with actually mutton. So a little bit tougher sheep meat. Nowadays it would be made with lamb, but as people have gotten richer, and here are the middle class is more burgeon, steak pieces, beef it would be made with today, but originally or traditionally it would have been made with lamb. Lamb, potatoes, carrots, and an onion.
Oh, nice.
That's really yummy. Yes.
And what? Leek? The odd leak. Says my other daughter in the corner, but I'm gonna have to check Google on that one. What else is common on shepherd's pies? Is pretty common.
Or just
Beer?
with
Beer.
bread.
Yeah, Guinness. Maybe
Oh.
Guinness with some wheat and bread, definitely.
Well,
What other
It's
traditional?
more of a religious holiday here than a
St.
festive,
Patrick's Day?
yeah, than a
Yeah.
festive.
grain.
I can't think of any other
Probably a lot.
stew. Like, I mean, like pubs stew would be big, like a small bowl of stew.
Great. So back to the bread. How long does it take to cool again once you wrap it in your
Depends
Your
how
wet-
cold your house is.
Depends on- yes. That's a great answer.
Are we allowed to turn the heat on?
So what? I would say on average, obviously depending on if your daddy allowed you to turn on the oil heating, but 20 to 30 minutes would be enough to cool it to where it's not a problem to cut.
Great.
I mean, I imagine you can cut it right away from the oven, but I think
Probably
more you will tear the insides.
Well, wonderful. So if there's any other questions, we're open to any comments or questions at the moment. And then, we're still kind of interested to see what the bread's going to look like from the oven.
Okay.
Yeah, bread. Forgot about bread.
Well, yeah, it's okay. Okay.
Did you just take a peek at it?
Yeah, sorry.
Get that cell phone down there, you guys. Let us see what it looks like.
So if you
You
can,
wanna just
if you
move-
can hear.
Yeah, perfect. Oh,
Okay.
yes.
So it's
Oh,
probably
Oh,
okay.
nice.
What
Great.
That's
what
so
some
neat.
what some people do is they'll take maybe a more serrated knife than this one and stick it in, and if it comes out clean, then it's okay. This is probably okay. It'll maybe cook a little bit more in once it's wrapped up. You think it's okay?
I think it's okay.
So when you wrapped on it, or were you looking for a hollow sound?
Yes.
And did it do that?
Yeah, I think it did. It was pretty close. So I'm gonna burn my
Nice.
hand.
It's so beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah, great.
good sound. It
Woohoo.
is so pretty. I don't want to eat it now because it's so nice and
So
pretty.
How
Wrapping it
beautiful
up
is
with,
that?
with the tea towel,
And I bet you. it
Oh,
I
smells
just
great,
spread
too.
flour and then just set it on the cooling rack and come back later and it'll be ready.
We all want to
Now
go
is-
to you in Ireland. Can you
Yeah.
house?
I am
Oh
gonna-
my
I am
gosh.
gonna put the other one in. I am gonna put the other one in now because that was the one I made earlier.
sorry, did you say that was a wet cloth or a dry cloth that you wrapped it in?
This one is wet.
Okay,
I mean,
Yeah.
damp.
that's what I
Yeah.
thought you said. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you can see the steam
So-
coming out.
Wow,
of it.
how neat.
Oh, look, it's steaming. See the steam? Wow. So Jim, how many people can your house hold?
How Sorry, what was that?
How many people can your house hold? We all want to go
Oh.
visit.
It depends on who's willing to give up a bed and at what price.
Oh, that's nice.
That's right.
Probably another.
We've,
We've had like 10 people.
we've had 10 plus
Okay.
us. We've had 14.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, you
Yeah,
don't
so
get
it'll
your,
fit all of us. Yeah, that's perfect.
you don't get your own bedroom at that though.
That's okay. We can have a big slumber party.
Yeah. This has been so neat, you guys. It's inspirational watching you do this. You guys have been just great.
Well, thank you.
You guys got to get your own YouTube channel.
Yes, we do.
I don't know about that. So Kira has requested that you send pictures of your bread to LaMonica or Eileen to send to us so that we can see how you did.
That's a wonderful idea. So yes, participants, if you want to, grab the recipe, we'll send that to you later today. Make your own bread, send us pictures, and we will email them to Jim so that he knows that you did them and you tried.
And if
How sweet.
if you do decide to add in some green chili or cheese or add or amend the recipe, we'd love to hear from that as well. Because we're willing to try new things, aren't we?
Sure.
How sweet. Oh, sweet.
That is amazing. Well, if there's any other questions, thank you all for joining us today, and we will be on a few more minutes just to, answer any more things.
A huge thank you. This was such a treat for us.
I'm
Really
glad.
sweet.
I'm glad.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Monica, for helping us with this introduction to make this all possible.
You're very welcome.
Way to go.
And we hope you have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day.
Thank
If
you.
you get up to anything at all. Here, like I said earlier at the start before a few joined, but there's no pubs open in Ireland on St. Patrick's Day, no restaurants
Oh.
open. And
Yeah.
this will be the second year in a row. So
Wow.
come shortly
Aw.
after Easter, we are ready to party.
Really? Oh
Thank you so much, you guys.
There's another question in
you.
the chat. How is St. Patrick's Day normally celebrated there?
no.
I mean,
Parade.
If it wasn't
Parade.
COVID?
Parade.
A parade, people go to the pub. What's that?
A small parade.
Yeah.
It's very small.
Depending on what city you live in, or town, there's some small parades, there's a couple of larger ones, but
They all dress up as cartoon characters.
yeah, there's some of the funniest parades. Although Cincinnati was one of the funniest parades I've ever seen because they actually had the whole police force line up, and that was fine. Then the Black Mariahs with the big paddy wagons, we would have called them. A paddy wagon where
Police car.
like a big police truck where they throw all the drunk paddies into the back of it. It was called a paddy wagon. And then that was okay, but then a couple of hearses come past, on some a hearse, that's where you go after the paddy wagon. But yeah, so it
It's
was
mostly a Christian holiday. You still go to mass here and stuff.
yeah. I mean, yeah, there'd be a mass. And then go to the pub.
And then everybody gets
Monica-
drunk.
Not everybody.
A lot of people get drunk. And then you gotta walk home with the cold.
And it's cold.
That has never happened.
So obviously we've been on too long.
So Monica was saying that in Chicago, they turned the river green. Are they still going to do that this year, even though with COVID? And you're muted.
I don't know because I don't think they're trying to increase the crowd coming out.
That's true.
So I think they're limiting until herd immunity, then
Right.
they'll.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, it was a pleasure. And I'm so glad that you're one of my, EMBA students for life. And the class of 13 will always be in my heart. So I'm glad that I got to see you again.
Yeah, likewise. Likewise. It was like when you first came on, you're like, oh, I know you. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Well, thank
Well,
you.
I hope
And
you have
thank
a
you
good-
everybody for
good
participating.
afternoon, and I hope your bread is reasonably tasty on your first attempt, and it gets better and better from there.
Absolutely. And look,
Jerry Gold.
Oh, look at what he has.
All right.
oh, can I
Thank
see?
you.